Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of TCG Talk. Back to with another video. And today's video is a super special one. I'm finally getting to sit down with the creator, the founder, all the accolades he'll talk about here of Alpha Clash, talking to Ridge, kind of gain a baseline of what the game is, why it should be important to you as a TCG player and a fan, and just kind of talk about the game and have some fun. So, Ridge, welcome. I just wanted to start by letting you introduce yourself, and we'll kind of talk about some different parts of the game and go from there.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Oh man, talk about myself, Alpha Clash. Uh, could start in a lot of places, but
Yeah.
my background and my team's background is very different than probably most trading card games or even tabletop game companies. Uh, None of us came from the gaming world. We all have very different backgrounds. My background, I was a collegiate and post collegiate wrestler and then transitioned into strength and conditioning. I was the head of strength and conditioning for Cirque du Soleil and had a whole career of strength and conditioning for about 10 years, um, and was a closet kind of nerd that I just loved playing games, whether it was video games, tabletop games, but no one really knew about that in my, kind of social life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then it kind of came to fruition with Alpha Clash. But The rest of my team is just really experienced, just really awesome, really talented. My brother is the chief of operations, and he was in collegiate wrestling, coach Division 1 wrestling 10, 15 years, and jumped into Alpha Clash full time recently. And so that's really exciting. But man, he's like the Swiss Army blade of the company. He's just super talented and just so many different things, whether it's creativity or operations. He just has a lot of abilities to be adaptable. And then our chief of marketing is Josh Horton.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh is a YouTube influencer. He has a social media influencer, over 7 million different followers, juggling world champion, like trick shot extraordinaire.
Mm-hmm.
Just he comes at it with a really brilliant mind from like a marketing side of things, but also he has so many talents that he does behind the scenes that people don't know, from like video editing to ideas around the Alpha Clash lore, whatever it is. But he's just been an awesome addition to the team, and I could go on and on about Josh because he is just multifaceted. And
Yeah.
then we've got
Okay, go on.
I would say we've got Al Light, who is our writer, is our chief creative officer. So there's five of us. There's five core owners, founders of the company, and Al he's our writer, but he's got a different background too. So his first degree is in writing and creative writing,
Mm-hmm.
and just has incredible talent. But he's not a full-time author. He has been in the circus for at least about 30 years. And he is a head coach of Cirque du Soleil, multiple shows over the course of his career there. And that's where him and I met. We
Mm-hmm.
worked on multiple shows together, from Chris Angel Mind Freak Live to The Beatles Love, Michael Jackson One, like you name it. And so Al and I became really good friends from Cirque du Soleil, and just like nerded out over a lot of things because he's a comic guy
Mm-hmm.
and all that. But just again, totally different skill set, but incredibly talented with his writing.
Mm-hmm.
And so he wrote the novel, he writes the comics, like everything lore based.
Mm-hmm.
It's all out, and I hope that people really get to see his talent, because he is just like a hidden gem in terms of that. And then our last member is Efren Ayala, last but not least, and he's a really good family friend. He's an artist, incredible artist, and graphic designer. And so every single thing that you see, whether it's a card, an ad, the comics, like he puts it all together. He's the one that makes all of that actually tangible for you.
Yeah.
So man, just totally different backgrounds that
Mm-hmm.
together we make something pretty cool.
Yeah, and that was like when the game first came out. It was one of y'all's basic articles of like both y'all had like a Circus Soleil background and like a background that wasn't TCG based, and like that's what caught my eye at first, was because I mean I'm assuming in y'all's prior profession like creativity, but also like processes are really important, and like y'all had to like constantly, like even something as momentous and like grander as Circus Soleil, like how do we make it better? How do we make it different from the last time the person saw the show? Like what new things can we implement? All these like things that y'all had to think out have probably came into this. So other than being a closet nerd, what made you go for TCGs? Because like you have, and it's starting to come now, and we'll get to it. Of like you're delving into comic books, delving in all these different things. But like, what made you go for TCG? Is it something that you played growing up, or is it more of just like the one thing that was hot at the time? Like, what made you go into trading card games specifically in nerd culture?
Yeah, so trading card games were, a pretty large part of my life and different parts of my life. So Pokemon, for several years
Mm-hmm.
as an adolescent, then got into Magic the Gathering and had played that for many years. Then by the time I went off to college, didn't really have time. Our friend group kind of just broke apart because we all moved away. And then TCGs were just kind of always there in the background, enticing but never pulled me in.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into like Dragon Ball Super. Later on, when I was living in Las Vegas, there was like a pretty good scene there. But like most people, you you quit your job and you create an IP, right?
Mm-hmm.
With a lot of things. So for me, it was always about the lore first.
Mm-hmm.
And during the pandemic, what happened was Cirque du Soleil went bankrupt and laid off everyone, and
Mm-hmm.
basically they had to go through a whole repurchasing um, process. But during that time, we were off of work for about a year and a half, and so I wasn't looking for something else. I was just waiting for
Mm-hmm.
everything to return because I loved working for Cirque du Soleil. I liked my job. Like there was a lot of great things, and it was almost just like a vision, a dream, whatever you want to call it. And it was Alpha Clash. It just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. And then I put together a team and we just started working on the story and having a lot of fun. Well, we wanted to give the story in multiple mediums. So if you're a card game player, you can enjoy the story through playing the game. If you're a
Mm-hmm.
comic book reader, we've got that novel, board game, like any way that we can get this story out there, we wanted to share that with them. I loved trading card games and just like had an idea of how it could all click together and feel like super powered people fighting. And so, a TCG wasn't the original idea. It was never the intent. It was honestly just the byproduct of, hey, this would actually work really well
Mm-hmm.
with this IP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was interesting because y'all came on. I mean, I call it. I didn't start playing trading card games till like 2021 is what I tell people too. Like, I didn't never played Magic or anything like that. Just didn't grow up around it. I grew up in like a small town and then went in the Marine Corps for 10 years. So it was like my life had never slowed down enough to like find a very not luxury hobby in a bad way, but you know what I mean, like a nerd culture hobby like I want to, other than video games, which is my other background. But um, as someone seeing when y'all came out, and y'all came in during like what some people were saying like TCG Renaissance era, like 2019 to 2024, 2023, where like all these new games are popping up. And that was probably really interesting for y'all. And the one thing I've seen is, and it kind of goes into our next thing, what do you think sets this game apart, which you've already kind of led into, which is the lore of like when people first saw this game, they're like, oh, it's just another TCG. And like they mean that in the most noble way possible, right? Like what's different about it. But it took y'all a while to get to all the subsidiary level stuff and world building aspect of it. So like I guess the first question is other like expanding upon the lore, what do you think sets this game apart from other TCGs in the space? Like what are you trying to like really hit home emotionally with people? I guess is the first question.
Yeah, so we didn't have, $1 billion IP to just all of a sudden come in, put a game around, and then just like tell everyone, hey, this is coming and get excited. Uh, so for us, it was about creating a story that people cared about, and then making it fun. And so we are a fun forward. Really, we've rebranded to be an indie comic book trading card game.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have this top down approach where the story will start to drive everything that we do. Where before it was lore mattered, but it was the card game and the novel and the comic,
Mm-hmm.
and we would sometimes put them together. But now we've totally revamped the process, and to me, it's going to just create such a better experience. You can read the comic book and play the card game, and those two things will go directly together. Not
Mm-hmm.
just, oh, that guy's in the book, and this is kind of a retelling of that scene. No, that scene from the comic book is on the card, and it's going to start to storytell across them. And so those two things are now going to be intermingled compared to, hey, they were important and there's an IP behind it. So the other thing is we want to create the experiences that people just don't get from other games. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's why with our events, we have event cards that change the meta and change the way that people approach the game.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really cool about that is it's lore minded, where in the story, the progenitors are the gods, if you will, and they create a tournament called the Gambit,
Mm-hmm.
and then the alphas fight, and chaos ensues around the worlds that it's happening on. But I get to act as a progenitor and kind of bend the rules
Mm-hmm.
of the Gambit, and then give people new experiences, new twists, new turns, new things to respond to. And so with our events that have happened and will continue to happen, we're going to get more and more creative and make the lore matter with
Mm-hmm.
those things, and give people experiences that other games just don't offer. Have it both fun and competitive, not just ultra competitive or not just super casual. Let's blend those two things together and really put a unique experience behind it.
Yeah, and we've had games in the past like that that have done similar stuff, but most people haven't been able to nail it like you all have. And for me, you know, I guess one of the questions I had, and one thing that it's been on my mind that isn't as obvious, is like, how do you balance all these different products? Like, the focus, is it just like it needs to contribute to the story? Is like the story the main focal point, and then everything else is like being pushed to that, and that's how you balance it? Because when you start coming out with the comic books, you start coming out with the graphic novel, you're pushing all these, the board game, and stuff like that, and like the one package products. Like, how do you focus, I guess, quality control on those? Is it just pushing it to the story, and as long as they all are cohesive in that, it goes? Or how do you focus on that?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, for us, the TCG is the flagship product. That's
Mm-hmm.
the one that's our biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
And before we started the TCG, what we did is we released the graphic novel because we knew that people needed to care about the story
Mm-hmm.
first, or at some level. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it has to matter. And so that's why we started with the graphic novel and then went into the TCG. But over time, we have started to evolve that process. But the TCG is the flagship product, and these other products that we've put out have been supplementary products to give people more lore and more things like that. And like, for example, the board game, we
Mm-hmm.
wanted to tap into an audience that we didn't see were currently playing Alpha Clash or involved in Alpha Clash, and so we wanted to get that product out there. But what was really cool, not only is it a great board game, I mean, I love playing it, is it sparked a whole new idea for what we call the Cosmic Block, which is the next several sets, and how it's going to start to tie in with the lore and the TCG. So, like, these things are starting to, like, connect in really unique ways that maybe weren't intended originally,
Mm-hmm.
but all of a sudden you just have this swarm of ideas, and you see the potential and the crossover, and making all the products like actually combine together into a really cool, smooth lore experience. In terms of QC, we have great people, great minds behind the games, behind virtually everything that we do. And so we always say, if we're going to do something, we want to do it right. And so we put the right people, the right devs, the testers, all that. We put it to the test just to make sure that, hey, if we're putting this out, like, it's really good quality. And so, yeah, it's, again, lore first, but man, as we've started to come up with these different ideas, all of a sudden we find ourselves as a team going, hey, what if we strategize like this? And what
Mm-hmm.
if we can make it all work together? And so it's been an interesting process in that.
Mm-hmm. And for talking about this, and we kind of blended a lot of these questions together, which is a good thing. They should all naturally blend together, to be honest with you. So skipping ahead a little bit here, but for the new player experience, right? Like, we had the Clash kits originally, like, get into the game, get these two decks, start playing right away. But now that you're starting to do that lore focus and that story focus, what is your, 10,000 foot level new player experience moving forward? Because I know the Clash kits are not discontinuing, but evolving is the right
Yeah.
word. What is your plan for new player experience to get people in on the game? And then we'll start talking about like the champion store program and stuff like that. But like, what's your initial thought?
Yeah, so the Clash kits were originally designed to be a strong entry point for players,
Mm-hmm.
but we found them in this kind of awkward position where it would be an entry level product, but if a player would get it, they couldn't really compete past, like, maybe a casual thing. So if they took it to their LGS, they quickly realized, hey, this isn't quite as competitive. Like, I need to
Mm-hmm.
really, revamp the deck. Um, and our competitive players didn't really need it because it didn't offer that competitive side. So it kind of was in this limbo zone.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we want to do, and we'll announce this soon, is want to introduce a product that current players can be interested in, but new players can just jump right in
Mm-hmm.
and be somewhat competitive in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Just a really good onboarding product to just get people right into the action and feel like, hey, I can play and I'm not just losing every time because it's super beginner or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, that's I feel like every trading card game has that problem, right? Especially even in a game like y'all's that isn't like heavily competitive or heavily casual. Y'all are trying to find that that line, so to speak. It makes it a little bit more difficult, but I'm glad that y'all are doing that because it's especially as you're growing this game and you're going indie, and I want to talk about that too for a second and like what that means. I know y'all just had a fantastic interview with Team Covenant, and anyone that's watching this, please go check that out because y'all went in depth on like what that means exactly on like a micro level. But for the indie side of things, can you explain that and how that kind of coincides with these new player products and what that means for a person at an LGS, right? Like, what is the difference between an indie company like yours and say like a big TCG, right? Like the Magics, the Yu-Gi-Ohs, all that other stuff. How does that affect the player being able to play the game and get introduced to it?
Well, because we are indie and because our team is small, like
Mm-hmm.
we're really agile with our decision making. There's not red tape or IP restrictions or anything like that. Like we own it. And because we have these banner goals and really this vision of it, we want to be fun forward and just experience led. We can quickly shift plans if we see something is needed or if something isn't working. And so for us, going fully indie, getting away from traditional distribution in the United States, like that was a really just important decision for us because there was a lot of barriers, a lot of red tape, a lot of difficulties that we struggled with to get into stores, to support stores, and all that. And we go into it for a couple of hours really with Team Covenant, just talking through all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, being indie is just having the ability to be quick to act on those things. And so when we want to give players a good experience, well, we also we recognize quickly that hey, clash kits are one of those things that we can improve on. The game store experience is something that we can improve on. We quickly identified just some of the problems that we were having and just said, hey, let's change them. Let's not wait on this and let's get going.
Mm-hmm. And that's something I've even not just with y'all's game, but in other games too, where I'm like, hey, I really like this game, or like maybe it's not just me, maybe it's a group because there's been games like that where it's a group of like four of us or whatever, and we're like, hey, we really like this game, we want to try it out, and we talk to the LGS owner who we have a good relationship with, and they're like, well, I'll talk to my distributor, or well, let's see if I can get it, or when they do want to get it, it's like, okay, well, I only can get like in this game I only can get this set right now. It's the only thing my distributor has, or I can in order to get the the subsidiary product I have to get this first, and it's just there's so much like TCG, and I'm talking to our audience too. As I was talking to you at this, is like TCGs. There, it's already for a store owner so difficult, right? Like it's not usually it's not a profitable thing until like way later down the road, and it's like a labor of love, so to speak. So any type of friction is just awful. So when it comes to like y'all's stuff, like you said, it just removes a lot of that headache because you all can work with the store. Like obviously, it's not complete a la carte. Like we're not going crazy here, but it is really you can cater to what the store needs depending on the play group size and like what they're interested in and stuff like that. So I think that's really important for anyone trying to get in this game is like if you talk to your store owner, the barrier to entry is honestly a phone call, which they're going to talk to you or like three other people directly, right? And figure that out directly so it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, our champion store approach, going fully indie, and going directly to stores allowed us to honestly just pick up the phone, talk to stores, figure out what they need and how they can be successful. And before we launched the program, we actually talked to maybe 15 stores and just said, "Hey, can you explain your experiences here? What are your difficulties? What's working? What's not?" And honestly, just made a list of what are we having trouble with at the distribution level, and what are the game stores having, and then we basically just put a list together and said, hey, here's how we can help. And so essentially when we work with our champion stores, we can give them demo decks, promotional materials, like banners and signage and things like that. Going through distribution, you would think that that's an easy thing to do, getting demo decks to distributors wasn't, you know, for me, I was ready to send them. It wasn't always received on the same. Now I can go directly to the store and say, hey, you need 20 demo decks? Here you go, ready to go. We also offer them, cool exclusive promo cards with their store's logos on them for their awakening events. So stores can have some pride to, rep their store on an official Alpha Clash card. Stores get exclusive pricing. They deal directly with us. It's either me or Garrett for the most part that they deal with. If they need one box, hey, we can find it. We can help you out. If you need multiple, like whatever it is to support your scene, we're working with stores of, all different sizes.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds, and it's not always this way, but it might just be a store owner saying, hey, like I have a group of 4 guys who are interested, or 4 people, and we're trying to get 4 more. We just like to do a Year of the Dragon draft box or whatever it might be, right? To like get things going. And then once people see they like the game, maybe can you send us like 2 comics with it or something so people can like flip through it and see it, whatever the case may be. Like that experience makes it a lot better. And the price entry or the interest level is a lot better than just saying, hey, buy a box, or hey, buy this starter deck. You may or may not like it. So I think that's really important. And that kind of goes into like, I know you can't peel back the curtain too much, but like what is y'all's plans for the future products in terms of comic story? Like what's your cadence look like 10,000 foot level? Like what are you trying to do with stores other than just draftable booster boxes and like starter level product? What's your goal?
Yeah, we're really excited about this. So, uh, regarding comic books,
Mm-hmm.
there's two kind of exciting things to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
One is if anyone hasn't seen it, we did sign a deal with legendary comic book writer Mark Waid.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Waid has written over 2,000 comics. We're talking big name DC, Marvel, like you name it. This guy, if people are into comic books and you say Mark Waid, they know exactly
Know
who you're
your name.
talking about.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We have a comic arc that's going to be we're going to be working together. We're going to release that. There's more details on that coming soon, but we're already working on it. It's going to be awesome. We're excited, and that's something that we are trying to um, just really get the comic book world excited about.
Mm-hmm.
He has a large fan base already. We have a great lore and IP, and so let's put those two things those two things together and really get people that aren't into Alpha Clash into Alpha Clash.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is that we're going to start to release comic books monthly or every other month starting this fall.
Okay.
Okay. And what's really cool about that is the next, 3 sets we call the Cosmic Block. Well, alongside the Cosmic Block will be an 8-issue arc of comics that is really a prequel story, and we'll release either monthly or every other month. And the reason why is because printing, shipping, sometimes those things aren't perfect. But we already have multiple issues done, and the story's so good. I can't wait to get it into people's hands. But we have key partners around the world, and Team Covenant is one of our partners for the United States. And so basically, people can get a copy of the comic book, and then they can get 4 exclusive promo cards that are not only alternate art, but for the Covenant promo, the card's not even in set 6. So it's a future card that'll come out later, but if you want a playset of it, you can get it with your comic book, and so you get your full playset there. And we're going to have with each issue an exclusive promo card that we'll release, and we want to continue to release these on a regular cadence to just feed people the story and also storytell across the trading card game. So it's something that we are so stoked because just seeing the comic books come to life, seeing them spill over into the trading cards, like it's a really cool experience that I'm really pumped about.
Mm-hmm. And this is the first time hearing this for anyone that's so when my response is actually I'm reacting with the audience here, so when my response makes sense, is what I like about what you just said is it kind of allows people to shift their priorities of what they enjoy in like this industry, so to speak. And how I can expand on that is like for me, like I used to, when I first started playing trading card games, I was all about competitive, like just want to travel, just want to play events, get finely tuned lists. All I care is about singles, whatever. And over time, it's like I just want to play at the kitchen table. I want or play at local armory or local weekly and stuff like that. I want to read lore, stuff like that, and just kind of get involved holistically. And what this allows is people kind of pick how they want to do things, right? Like if you want to get the boxes, you want to draft, you want to travel to awakenings and gambits and stuff like that, you can. Or quarterly, if you just you want to get your new comic book issue and maybe like add to your favorite contender that you're enjoying that's in the story, like you can do that, right? It gives you like multiple avenues to stay involved in the scene without feeling left out. Because I feel like some, even like traditional games like Magic, right? Like if you're not keeping up with every set and keeping up with how standard's going, modern's going, you fall out of like the loop. And once you fall out of the loop, getting back in that loop is awful. Whereas in this, it allows you to kind of pick, where you want to sit as a consumer and just kind of enjoy the game. You don't always have to be in on like all the little intricacies. You can just kind of enjoy what you want, so to speak.
Yeah. And the other thing that we're really excited about that sets us apart and continues the storytelling in a way that no one else really is right now is we've got a PvE that's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coming out, later this summer. And man, just a 1 to 5 player raid experience that's casual, non-competitive, and man, it's super fun. And it's really unique because there's an autopiloted version of the game. So if you're sitting at home by yourself, you know, not many people can say, "Hey, I played a TCG by myself," at the kitchen table. But with this product, you can play by yourself or with friends, 1 to 4 players, autopiloted. Or if you want someone to control the boss, then you can get this boss deck out and you can, throw down against a big bad and have it be like a raid experience that you'll have to navigate and work together as a team. And it's just another way that we're trying to reach broader audiences with really good, just fun experiences.
Mm-hmm. And I think what adds, like you said earlier, what adds to that is like these aren't all separate products, like separate pillars, right? It all ties together. It's not like a new, a PvE experience comes out or a new comic comes out and you're like, oh, well, now I got to learn what this is, right? And it doesn't pertain to what I already have. Like, no, it's all coming together. So it's like, it's not something you have to relearn, which is again another friction point in a lot of things with different products from different people. So yeah, for the future, I guess as we kind of close up here and try to just tie in a little bow is like we talked about it at the beginning, but like what do you want people to know about Alpha Clash? What are you wanting to like kind of tie up and kind of give people lasting impressions with in terms of this game, and why should they be interested and look for the future?
Yeah, if people are into good stories, fun games, really cool artwork,
Mm-hmm.
and just something that's unique to the space, Alpha Clash, is your jam. It's a thing that you should definitely check out. Um, our community is also just something that's special. We've
Mm-hmm.
got just a great, healthy, just thriving community that is just edifying, right? They're working together, they're lifting each other up. Like it's just in a great place. And I would say just the culture, the experience, like everything with Alpha Clash is really genuine. And you're also working with people like that are on the ground level. And so it's early for people to get in and you
Mm-hmm.
can learn the lore, you can learn the cards, like you can jump in, you're not too far behind.
Mm-hmm.
Now is just a great time to jump in because we are really revamping and making a really hard push with this whole new approach with champion stores and PvE and our cosmic block and the comic books. Like all of that is coming across the summer, and so now is like the perfect time to get into uh, Alpha Clash and everything that we have to offer.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and that's what I was getting on. Just like tools for people to get plugged in. Like the Discord, which will be down below, is a good place to start. Like really approachable community, which is always like you always want a community approach, but yours like you go in other TCGs, is not a negative thing. It's just how communities are formed naturally. Sometimes it's like it's overly competitive, or it's maybe a little bit too casual, and people aren't as involved as you want them to be, or whatever the case. He also has one of the more open communities of like no matter what your taste is, people are going to be there to talk about it. And I know y'all just started. Is the deck builder website, is that community driven, or is that something that you all are working with someone with?
So there's two deck builders. There's one that's on our organized play
Mm-hmm.
platform, but then there's also Deck Planet, and Deck Planet is awesome, and that is really community driven. So
Mm-hmm.
he's in the Discord, he's in the chat. Like if people have questions or feedback or anything, like he's fixing it in real time. And so Deck Planet has really become a staple for deck building
Mm-hmm.
alongside the one that we have too. And whatever people like, I mean, heck,
Yeah,
go for it.
every game, if you're successful, the community is going to start making their own things in their own ways, and you shouldn't really stop that if you can help it, right? As long as it's not doing too
Uh,
much damage or anything like that.
No, they're great. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's been awesome. And so yeah, but ways to get plugged in, like whatever you're into, follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, hop into our Discord, get into our Facebook community. Like there's just a lot of ways. And if you have a game store and you're interested in the Champion Store program,
Hmm.
have your game store reach out to us. You know, tell them that you are interested in Alpha Clash. Have them reach out because an introduction goes a long way rather than just a cold call. And we can give them the pitch on the Champion Store program and everything that we have to offer and how we can support them and build up a community there, and just find a way to get plugged in because there's a lot of ways. And worst case, if you have questions, support at alphaclashtcg.com.
Hmm.
I monitor that. That's a really good way to get directly in touch with us as well.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put all that below. And that's the one thing I wanted to end on is like the difference between this getting people started and like other games is you're talking directly to Ridge, you're talking directly to Garrett, you're talking to like the head people, right? Like you're not just talking to a distributor or to even like, a support person. Like this is like the owners of the game. So like the friction point to actually get started is so much lower than most any other game I've been around, at least, which is awesome for new players. But yeah, at the time this will be coming out, Ridge, like I know we should have spoken about this before, but like I'll be doing like I'm gonna give people a little bit background on the lore of the game at a base level. I want them to be able to get stuff like this, which is awesome to be able to like
Yeah.
talk about it. But so they have a little bit of background and what the contenders are and stuff like that. So hopefully this will be kind of like the pinnacle. And at the time this comes out, you'll be talking about the comic book and stuff like that. So and kind of giving more info on that. But thank you so much, Rich, for stopping by. I appreciate you even just talking to me for 30 minutes, kind of going over some of the highlights. I know we could have sat here for 3 hours, and I thought about that at first. I was going to be like, what is Alpha Clash? What is PvE? But there's so many other mediums y'all have done that, and I'll link them down below with the Covenant channel. I just wanted to kind of have a fun chat with you, put a face to the game, and hopefully people will start to enjoy it.
No, thanks for having me. It was great to just talk about trading cards and Alpha Clash, and I hope everyone just gives it a shot.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ridge. I appreciate it. And thank you all for watching. If you all have any questions for Ridge, definitely leave it down below. He normally when I do Alpha Clash videos, either you or Garrett, one of you comment on something they pay attention to that kind of stuff. So definitely check out the Discord down below, ask them some questions, and yeah, we'll see y'all next time. But thank y'all so much for tuning in to TC Talk. Ridge, you have any final words?
I would say give Alpha Clash a shot. I promise you'll have a good time with it. And I look forward to seeing you in the community and maybe the events one day.
Thank y'all so much. Y'all have a great rest of your day.